There are movies, and then there is Star Wars. Say that title out loud, anywhere in the world, and watch what happens. A smile, a memory, a spark in the eyes. Because this isn't just a film, it's a beginning, a universe, a feeling people carry with them for a lifetime. Released in 1977, Star Wars didn't just entertain audiences, it reshaped cinema. It turned a space fantasy into mythology. Lightsabers became symbols. A farm boy became a hero. A masked villain became one of the most iconic figures ever created. And the people behind those characters? They were young, unknown, unproven. Some were fighting for recognition. Some had no idea what they were stepping into. None of them could have predicted what this film would become. This is where they are now. This is what happened to them. This is the story behind the story. Let's start with the heart of the story. Before the lightsabers, before the battles, before the legend, there was a boy staring at twin suns, dreaming of something bigger. Mark Hamill was just 25 years old when he became Luke Skywalker. At the time, he wasn't a major film star. He had done television work, small roles, nothing that hinted at what was coming. He didn't walk into Hollywood as a leading man. He grew into one in front of the entire world. And that's what made Luke Skywalker work. Because when you watch him in A New Hope, he feels real, restless, curious, frustrated, hopeful. He's not a hero yet. He's becoming one. That journey from naive farm boy to the man who trusts the Force and takes the final shot that destroys the Death Star is one of the most satisfying transformations in cinema history. It wasn't just acting. It felt personal. Hamill gave Luke something human, something fragile. You believed in him. But what most people don't realize is how difficult things became after that. Shortly before the release of the film, Hamill was involved in a serious car accident. It changed his appearance slightly and required recovery, just as his life was about to change forever. Then the film exploded. Overnight, Mark Hamill wasn't just an actor anymore, he was Luke Skywalker. And that became both a blessing and a limitation. While the world adored him, Hollywood struggled to see him as anything else. He continued the role in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, deepening the character and becoming a central figure in one of the greatest trilogies ever made. But outside of Star Wars, roles didn't come as easily as they might have for others. So he adapted. Hamill reinvented himself in a way few actors managed to do. He stepped into voice acting. And there, he created another legend. His portrayal of the Joker in animated series and games became iconic in its own right. Dark, unpredictable, completely different from Luke. It proved something important. He wasn't just a one-role actor. He was a performer with range. Today, Mark Hamill is in his 70s, respected, recognized, still working, still connected to the character that made him famous. Luke Skywalker may have been where it started, but it's not where it ended. Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Now let's talk about the man who didn't believe in any of it. No force, no destiny, no grand purpose. Just a ship, a blaster, and survival. Harrison Ford was 34 years old when he stepped into the role of Han Solo. And here's the interesting part. He wasn't even meant to be in the film. Ford had previously worked with George Lucas on American Graffiti, but for Star Wars, Lucas initially wanted fresh faces. Ford was brought in to read lines with other actors during auditions, just to help. But something happened during those readings. He stood out. There was a natural confidence, a grounded presence, a kind of effortless cool that couldn't be ignored. So Lucas changed his mind, and Han Solo was born. From the very first scene, Ford brought something different to the film. While everything around him was about destiny and the Force, Han felt real, practical, slightly cynical. He didn't believe in the story, and that made the audience believe in him. His chemistry with the rest of the cast, especially with Carrie Fisher, added layers to the film that weren't even fully on the page. And then there's that moment. I know. 2 words, completely unscripted, and somehow they became one of the most iconic lines in film history. After Star Wars, Harrison Ford didn't struggle to find roles. He dominated. Indiana Jones, Blade Runner, The Fugitive. He became one of the biggest movie stars in the world. But no matter how many roles he played, Han Solo never really left him. Decades later, he returned to the character in The Force Awakens. Older, wiser, still carrying that same energy. Today, Harrison Ford is in his 80s, still acting, still commanding the screen. Some actors play characters. Ford becomes them. And Han Solo remains one of his finest.
Now, let's talk about the force of nature in the story. Because while Luke was learning and Han was doubting, she already knew exactly who she was. Carrie Fisher was only 21 years old when she played Princess Leia, and she didn't play her as a typical princess. There was no waiting to be saved, no helplessness. Leia was sharp, strong, direct. She could command a room, challenge authority, and still carry emotional depth in every scene. Fisher brought intelligence and wit to the role, and she did it effortlessly. But behind the scenes, her life was far more complex. She was open about her struggles, mental health, addiction, the pressures of fame. Unlike many actors who tried to hide their reality, Carrie Fisher spoke about it, honestly, publicly. And that honesty made her even more respected. After Star Wars, she built a career not just as an actress, but as a writer. Her books were candid, funny, and deeply personal. She became known for her sharp voice, both on and off screen. When she returned as Leia years later, there was something different. Not weaker, not faded, stronger. She carried the weight of the character and her own life experiences at the same time, and it showed in every moment. In 2016, Carrie Fisher passed away at the age of 60. The world reacted instantly. Because Leia wasn't just a character. She was a symbol of strength, of resilience, of honesty. And Carrie Fisher gave her that.
James Earl Jones as the voice of Darth Vader. Because Darth Vader is more than a costume, more than a presence. He is a sound. And that sound belongs to James Earl Jones. Interestingly, the physical role of Vader was played by another actor, but the voice, that deep, controlled, unforgettable voice, was all James Earl Jones.
He was 46 when he recorded those lines. And at first, he wasn't even credited. Think about that. One of the most iconic voices in cinematic history, and audiences didn't know who it belonged to. But they felt it. Every word carried weight, authority, power. Vader didn't need to shout. He didn't need to move quickly. He spoke, and the room changed. That's what Jones brought to the role. A presence that went beyond visuals. And once audiences learned it was him, his recognition grew even stronger. James Earl Jones had already built a respected career in theater and film. But Darth Vader gave him something else. Immortality. He continued acting for decades, lending his voice and presence to countless projects. Even in his later years, that voice remained powerful, calm, controlled, unmistakable. Because some voices don't age. They stay with you. Here's something most people forget. Star Wars wasn't expected to succeed. In fact, many people thought it would fail. The studio didn't fully understand it. The concept felt strange. Space battles, aliens, the Force, it was a risk. Even during production, things weren't smooth. Budget issues, technical challenges, doubts from executives. At one point, it looked like the film might collapse under its own ambition. But George Lucas believed in it. He pushed forward, trusted his vision. And when the film was finally released, everything changed. Lines formed outside theaters. People came back again and again. It wasn't just watched, it was experienced. It became a phenomenon. Not just because of effects or action, but because of the characters. Luke, Han, Leia, Vader. They felt timeless.